We're sorry to those who thought they had a chance with Shohei Ohtani. We found out that he's married. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about Kiké Hernández and the comments he made about joining the Dodgers and about MLB free agency as a whole. We'll look a little bit at Gavin Lux's defense, which has not been the great start so far, and a quick update on Max Muncy. All that coming to you in a special episode, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, and new customers can join today and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. If you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and get notified when episodes are there for you. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host Jeff Snyder. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have watched plenty of Dodger games, talked a lot about the Dodgers, and we're here to we're not quite insiders. We're just here to bring you our thoughts and perspectives on the Dodgers as we see it and become better Dodger fans with you. And we're becoming even more better. That's very grammatically correct. Dodger fans this week, because we are doing an extra episode because there was so much to talk about.
Yeah, I think you mean more gooder.
Yeah.
Yesterday, normally our Friday episode would have been talking about the news of Thursday, but we had the episode yesterday or last night or earlier this morning, depending on when people are watching this and when they watch that one, with Keith Law talking about the Dodgers farm system. And so we thought there's too much going on in spring training to just skip a news episode because we did the prospect episode. So you know what? Episodes like this are why we average slightly more than 5 episodes a week over the last 5 years, because every once in a while you get a 6th episode.
Yeah, just realized I'm still Keith Law, so I'll try to talk in prospect form. But all good. You guys know who I am. I'm Vince Samperio. We had a quick update on Max Muncy. He is seemingly fine. The Dodgers had called it a contusion. He was supposed to get x-rays. It looks like we avoided the worst. And obviously we'll have to remain and keep track with that. But that's kind of like the one thing we're worried about this spring training and season will be injuries, and hit by pitches are the worst because it's like there's really nothing you can do to prevent it because it's not your fault.
Yeah, and I'm still a little pessimistic until he's actually back in a game and doing baseball stuff. Like x-rays, when they're swelling, don't always show everything, and there's so many tiny bones in the hand that it's scary. But hopefully, obviously this is better news than an x-ray showing a fracture. And when you look at the way he was hit, it wasn't flush like the Seager and JT hit by pitches. This one was, more of a glancing blow than those ones were. And so hopefully it really was just a contusion or whatever fancy word they have for "ow, my hand hurts."
Yeah.
You're Vince again now. You see that on the graphic?
We're back, baby. We're back. All right. Staying on the left side of the infield, Gavin Lux. The concern for a lot of people was the defense that, we kind of saw before last year, before he got hurt. That was a concern at shortstop. It's reared its head again so far. He's made a couple of errors, one on a throw, one on fielding. He hasn't had much to work with in the game, so those obviously stick out more than others, or they're going to stick out because he hasn't, like he's made 5 plays in 1 error. It's kind of been error and error. Jeff, are we concerned?
We're not reassured, that's for sure. Like if he looked great out there, we'd think, oh, good, maybe things are going to be okay. And we're definitely not reassured. I personally think it's too early in the spring to panic too much, especially like the throwing error. that was something that can be taught out of a guy, because it was simply a matter of he didn't set his feet like he should have, and he tried to do the Nolan Arenado run throw when there was no need to, and he doesn't quite have Nolan Arenado's arm strength, and so he threw the ball in the dirt, and that is, I think that's a case of Dino Ebel pulling him aside and saying, "Look, set your feet. You should always try to set your feet before you throw. Only throw on the run if you have to." So that is a coaching thing. The other one, yeah, it was just he just botched the ball, and we didn't get 1,000 replays. Can't tell if there was a funky hop and in between hop, or if it was just a, it's a small sample size. Even though it is like a very high percentage of the opportunities he's made an error on, it is still only 2 errors, 2 plays. And so, if he makes the next 10 plays, then, it doesn't stand out as much. And so, now I'm not super confident about it, but I wouldn't say I'm very much more concerned about Lux's defense than I was a week ago.
Yeah, it's obviously you would have liked him to have made the plays and not have to worry about it, or have less worry about it. But it just goes to show, like, I saw some people saying, "Oh, what was he doing all offseason, blah, blah." Like, you can take 1,000,000 ground balls in non-game situations and, field 999,000 of them. But it's not going to be the same as if you go into a game. I'm sure there's people out there in the world that could field 10 ground balls in a row, and then the first one you get hit to you in a game, you botch it. And that's kind of where it's at. Gavin Lux hasn't been able to have game situations in over a year, or just around a year now. And it's not ideal to see, 2 errors, but again, it's one of those where maybe the timing in his head was wrong on the one in the throw. He thought he had less time, or he didn't know the run. Like, that's another thing in the spring too. Like, if you don't know some of these guys that are prospects or younger players or anything like that, you don't know if he's fast or not. So you don't have timing in your head to, oh, I got to hurry this throw, or, oh, I have time to throw this one. We're not going to sit here and make excuses, but that is a general thing. Like, maybe Gavin Lux thought that runner was fast, and then he looked up and he wasn't fast, or something like that, and he rushed the throw. Whatever the case is, yeah, it's not a matter of anything underlying the throw. At least the throw, like, for me, the issue was always going to be the throwing of if, what I was worried about. And that throw wasn't a normal throw. He made it into a different throw. Now, if he had got a routine ground ball and then threw it away, then, yeah, I maybe would have a little bit more concern. But, I would just hope that they put him in. He's going to play a lot more, and we see, a lot more ground balls hit his way, just so he gets comfortable.
Yeah, and all those things that you mentioned, those are why we talk about how small samples aren't reliable, because there's so many what ifs. And over the course of a season, you can eliminate a lot of those what ifs, but in 2 plays, there is no way. All we can do is guess. And so that's why small samples, and that's why sometimes Trace Thompson hits 3 home runs in a game and then doesn't get another hit for 3 months, because, he had a good game, but the overall talent wasn't actually homering 3 times every game. And so I am positive that Gavin Lux won't make errors on the majority of his opportunities like he has so far this spring. I'm positive he's better than that. Whether he's good enough for the Dodgers to rely on him as the everyday shortstop, that still remains to be seen.
Yeah, and we talked about this before. If it happened to become a concern too much defensively, or combine that with, a slow or sluggish start offensively, the Dodgers have the means to upgrade that position if they needed to. I would hope not for Gavin Lux's sake, and, for our sake, but that is something that they're rolling into the season knowing it's a little bit of an unknown. We don't know exactly what we're going to get, but we're fine with it. He's our number 9 hitter, and realistically, if push came to shove and his defense was just that bad, we have Miguel Rojas, who can play defense, and other guys that can play, formidable defense at shortstop.
Yeah.
All right. There was talk about Kiké Hernández, or he had some things to say about how he got to the Dodgers and how free agency was for him, which kind of, talks about the free agency as a whole right now and the market, especially with guys still unsigned. So we're going to get into all that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's any winning $5 bet. You get $150 to mess around with beyond that. So go check it out at fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Remember, you can put down on your favorite NBA players and NBA teams right now as their season is running forward. You got quick bets, same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. You can bet on teams to win, teams to score, so many amount of points, a player to score so many amount of points, over under on rebounds, assists, all that type of stuff. So go check it out right now. Had you put some money down when the Lakers were down big the other night against the Clippers, you probably would have had a nice little payout. And if it was your first bet, you would have got 150 on top of that in bonus bets. So go right now to fanduel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. We're here for you about 30 minutes every Monday through Friday. And, start your day with a little bit of Locked On Dodgers. You can also find Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, breaking down the biggest stories and news from the sports world and the LA sports world 24/7. So go check that out. And if you want to go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider, just go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers, and you can text directly with us and get updates from us. If you're going about your day busy on a Friday morning, something happens with the Dodgers world, we're going to try to let you know about it and give you our reactions and thoughts. So go check that out right now. And Jeff, let's get into it. Kiké Hernández was on Foul Territory speaking with that. I think Rosenthal and that crew or whoever was on at that time, but he was talking about his free agency and had some interesting notes about specifically with the Dodgers and kind of everything that ended up with him coming back. It was funny we can start off here where it was reported that the final 4 teams for Kiké were the Twins, the Padres, the Giants, and the Angels. And Kiké Hernández said that it came down to the Dodgers and Yankees, and went even further to add that he never even got offers from the Giants or the Angels. So
yeah, and didn't even mention the Padres or the Twins. So the 4 finalists, according to Rosenthal, combined for a grand total of 0 offers made. So interesting definition of finalist, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, there was one before we get into like his free agency talk as a whole. The other part was he mentioned, he kind of gave Andrew Friedman a deadline. He said, if you guys don't have room or sign me by this day, then I'm gonna look somewhere else or go somewhere else. That was interesting. And then he had also mentioned that he was set to sign with the Dodgers, he said, about last month, but then a trade fell through. Didn't end up happening on the Dodgers side to clear a roster spot. I would presume also that it was Manuel Margot, but we don't know that part for sure. But it is interesting to know that the Dodgers had been in on Kiké, had been trying to get him, and realistically to get down to the wire because Kiké had given a date already, and the Dodgers got it done.
Yeah, and I think Kiké even said specifically they were trying to trade Margot. I think he even named Margot as the spot they were trying to open, and that was interesting. Like, we heard it was probably about a month ago that we heard that Kiké preferred to go back to the Dodgers. That was when he was first linked to the Angels, I think, that said that a lot of people believe that Kiké's preference is to go back to the Dodgers. And we talked about it then. We did a Margot or Kiké segment, and I think I drew the short straw and had to talk in favor of Margot that episode. But yeah, apparently it really was, Kiké always wanted to come back to the Dodgers. And, I guess maybe always isn't the right word, because he then gets into, the fact that the offers were all the same, the timing of conversations was all the same. And Kiké didn't say the collusion word, but he did say the phrase, the C word. And he wasn't referring to any bad words, just baseball bad words like collusion. And basically he was saying it seems way too coincidental for every team to be offering the same amount and, making the same kinds of offers for it to be a coincidence.
Yeah, like the official quote that he had was, he said, quote, I think the teams that are using these computer systems to project numbers, project salaries, they're all using the same one. And I think they all have the same password. So that's how free agency is going in. It's not just me. So that was an interesting way of putting it. But yeah, I mean, it's what we've seen. I mean, we've seen veteran players kind of get the short end of the stick for a few years now. I mean, not that the numbers have shown, obviously when you get older, you're not going to get better for the most part. But I do think that there's been a push to not pay veterans and pay, younger players to fill that role, especially for teams that don't necessarily intend to contend that year. I think that's kind of where the big difference has been. Teams that are still trying to win are still going out there and getting guys, or teams that are not trying to win, they're not signing those guys as much. They're going to let the young guys kind of figure it out. And that's kind of the shift that's been there. But I mean, there still are a handful of veteran names out there beyond Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery. And, I guess Jaden Martinez cannot get bumped up into that grouping of the Boris guys. But yeah, everything he's saying makes sense. I don't think it's one of those where I always thought the cap, like owners would come to a point where you're not going to pay a guy that much because, why would you? Why, if we all agree to not pay a guy $500 million, then nobody has to pay a guy $500 million. The Dodgers went beyond that this offseason, and, we might see it with Juan Soto next year. But I think if they went the opposite way where, why would I pay a veteran guy $10 million if I can wait him out and, get him for $3 million or $2 million or whatever, or a minor league deal?
Yeah, and the question is whether those are actual conversations that are happening or whether it is, groupthink, or people having the same kinds of thoughts, because that's the difference between collusion and a slow market. If they're actually having those conversations, that's collusion. And MLB owners have been beat down really hard in the past over collusion, cost them a lot of money, cost them a lot of players. I mean, that's how Kirk Gibson ended up on the Dodgers. There was back in the 80s, it was a huge deal. And I personally am skeptical that owners would be dumb enough to do that again. I think, I think they're probably coming as close as they possibly can without breaking the rules. I think that's kind of the nature of the beast. But I do think that a logical explanation is just that, like you said, if you're not trying to win, there's no reason to sign Kiké Hernández to your team when you have a young guy who can help you not win for the league minimum. And it's why I've always said Major League Baseball needs to do a better job of incentivizing winning, even if it's not winning everything. It should be better for a team to win 80 games than to win 60 games. And right now it's the opposite. It is much better to win 60 games because then you get the first pick in the draft. Or, I mean, now they have the lottery, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, well, don't tank because you're not guaranteed the first pick. You still have a much better chance at the first pick if you tank. And so it's if it was better for teams to win 80 games than 60 games, Kiké Hernández would have signed a month or two ago, because Kiké is a guy who can help you win 80 games. And, for the Dodgers, he's a great role player. He fits perfectly on the Dodgers. He could be a starter elsewhere on a team trying to win 80 games, trying to get from 70 to 80 wins. Kiké could help you get there. But those teams don't have much interest in paying millions for a guy you could pay $700,000 for instead.
Yeah, and obviously that's going to be the talk as we keep moving forward. And like we said before, where they brought up the idea of a deadline for signing in free agency or a multi-year deadline, whatever the case is, this is this offseason. Now, the veteran guys have had slower markets the last few years. That's kind of a building thing. But the general slower market of this year, like, with Snell and Montgomery and those guys, the bigger players haven't signed. That's a this year thing right now. If it moves forward and it's it happens next year and the year after that and whatever, then it's more of a pattern. But yeah, the veteran thing is going to be interesting. Going to see how they move forward with it, if there's anything. And yeah, a lot of stuff's not going to happen until the next CBA anyways, but we can build towards thinking about, okay, how do they fix that?
Yeah, and this isn't new. I mean, it was Adam Jones. People were having this conversation about a few years ago. How can Adam Jones not be signed? He can help a team win. He can't help a team win a World Series, And if the team doesn't have a chance to win a World Series, there's no point in trying to win it all. And that's something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Well, we got some news the other day via Shohei Ohtani's Instagram, which is the second time we've gotten some big news via Shohei Ohtani's Instagram in the last few months. So we're going to talk about that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Logix. On this show, you get a lot of in-depth analysis and our sometimes controversial takes. Well, right now, let me give you a hot take. The best lineup in LA is the lineup of auto loans at Logix. They start off with the proven and dependable new and used vehicle loans. These loans can give you low rates and save you big time bucks. Next up, they've got the exciting new rookie sensation in their electric vehicle loans with super low rates and flexible payment terms. And then rounding out the lineup, they've got their auto refinancing loans and lease buyout loans. And with these guys, you can lower your monthly payments and get on the road to owning your car faster. So right now, I know it's a hot take, but you can not beat the lineup that they have over at Logix. So visit your local Logix branch right here in LA and surrounding areas and let one of their amazing team members help you, or just apply online in minutes at logixbanking.com/car. That's LOGIX banking.com/CAR. I want to thank you if you are an everydayer. That's someone that listens or watches every day. You can become one just simply by watching more of us or listening more of us every single week. Season's coming up. There's no reason not to get a 30-minute fix of your Dodgers in your day. So go ahead and find us where we get podcasts and on YouTube. Remember, you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers, where you can text directly with us and get our thoughts, reactions to things, and ask us questions that you may have or things that pop up into your mind that you maybe don't deserve a full segment or don't deserve, or you want an immediate answer, something like that. So go check that out. And Jeff, Shohei Ohtani on his Instagram posted that he was married, and it came out of nowhere for seemingly everybody. And then Ohtani, the message or the post was in Japanese. He had the caption in English, just letting everybody know basically what it said. And he said he would discuss more in an interview. And he did meet with the press on Thursday, speaking a little bit about it. And for all we know, for Ohtani so far, since he's been here, this still is very surprising.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Dylan Hernandez, who we criticized last week when he deserved criticism, he wrote a really good article in the LA Times about this. Dylan's mom is from Japan, and so Dylan understands Japanese culture better than I do anyway. Our buddy Pat Dwyer, who is his wife is Japanese, he is actually the one who he texted me on the insiders group and told me to read that article. And Pat said kind of the same thing, that, wow, Dylan actually got one. And, when Dylan Hernandez isn't writing about Dodger baseball, which he hates, he has some good insight and definitely understands Japanese culture. And basically he talked about how in Japanese culture, it is there's a big separation between professional life and personal life. He said, even like just for regular work parties, like generally spouses aren't invited. I'm with my work people and my personal life is separate. And, some Japanese stars, Yu Darvish and Ichiro, they married people who were also public figures, but like Hideki Matsui, he married, there was a Japanese word for it that I can't pronounce, but it basically means a civilian. And basically there's a separation in Japanese culture. If I'm famous, that means I'm famous. It doesn't mean my family is famous, and they don't need to be famous. And so it seems like that's why Ohtani took this route. And even the slight difference in the Japanese text compared to the English caption was basically him saying, I'm going to talk about it to the media, and then I want you to leave me alone about it. Not in those exact words, but that seems to be what it is. And he referred to, like he said, like a normal Japanese woman was how he described his wife. And Dylan says that's basically him using that word for civilian. By normal, he meant she's not a celebrity and she doesn't want to be a celebrity. So, give us our privacy.
Yeah, would say they got engaged last year and then got married. His wife was in Japan and is with him now during spring training. It is going to be interesting. I mean, just for the simple fact, I don't really particularly care about Otani and how he handles his private life. You're entitled to how you do it, but I'm interested. The Dodgers usually have the wives or families throughout first pitches for bobblehead nights and special nights like that. I do wonder if Otani is going to bridge the gap between his Japanese culture and now being a Dodger or Dodger specifically. I would guess. And have her out in the public or let it be known who it is, I guess, or if she will throw out first pitch or anything like that. And we've seen over the years, like the Dodger wives have had strong groups before where they're all kind of together and do things, and whether it's bridal showers or baby showers or whatever they do, it'll be interesting to see like if he does, adopt the more modern culture of the U.S. where the wives are at games and hanging out and being a part of like the dynamic.
Yeah. And Pat mentioned to us that this was a huge story in Japan when he announced that he was married. Like it interrupted TV shows, like for news breaks there. And Dylan,
they were in the day over there, right? So
yeah. And Dylan says they're treating it like a royal wedding, like, and that the paparazzi, the tabloids are they are going to really, really try to figure out who she is. And so that's I always joke that if somebody offered me the chance to be rich and famous, my response would be, can we just do rich? Because like, I really like my current level of fame, which is that like three people say hi to me when I go to a Dodger game. Like beyond that, like, no, thanks. Like, the rich part would be great. And so I totally get, somebody wanting to keep their privacy and just be a regular person, like Ohtani's wife right now can go to the grocery store and nobody would know who she was. Ellen Kershaw could, but maybe not quite as easily, and I'm sure not everybody is as crazy about the Dodgers as you and I are. And so Ellen Kershaw could probably walk around LA and not be noticed as much as her husband, but more than like, I mean, I was in an elevator with Ellen and her, I think it was when they only had two kids with Ellen and Kelly and Charlie once. And like, there was you could tell the other people in the elevator, like, that's Ellen Kershaw. It's like on Elf when it's Miles Finch, and that's, I get somebody who the only thing that Shohei's wife did was fall in love with Shohei Ohtani, and Dylan notes a lot of people done that. He said there was actually a lot of kind of an epidemic of women calling off work because they were too devastated about Shohei being off the market. I was proud of my daughter for going to her college classes after she got the bad news. But yeah, I mean, it's Ohtani's wife signed up for Ohtani, not necessarily fame.
Yeah. The other, I did see on Twitter supposedly that there was like a what are they called on Twitter where they have, you can do like a live talking or whatever. There was like a bunch of people. They were called the show babes, and they were all talking about the devastation of Ohtani getting married.
That's sad. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I get it. But
I mean, I would say if you're a Dodger fan and interested in like the players for looks beyond the field, the Dodgers haven't had many like single players the last few years. It's been a lot of guys that are either have their high school sweethearts or already dating or already married. So it would be tough if you're a girl that, or a guy that thinks that they could become a Dodger a wife or your partner.
Although I do know of at least one Dodger who did date a girl from Dodgers Twitter. Somebody shot her shot and it worked, at least for a while. I don't think they're still together, but so dreams can come true, I guess. But Shohei's dream has already come true, and it wasn't with you or my daughter, and that's bad news for everybody.
Yeah. So congrats to Shohei. And
I guess it's not bad news for them. Yeah. Bad news for everybody except Shohei and his wife. Great news for them, for sure.
Yeah. So like I said, we'll see how he does it with her, or not how he does it, but how he handles if he brings her around or not. So
I hope it becomes a thing that he just breaks his own news all the time. I don't know what else there is, but I love that he broke the news of him signing with the Dodgers and him being married in the exact same way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to post it on Instagram now. Now the world knows.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, shout out to Shohei being the newsbreaker. All right, Jeff, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I just hope this episode does the same numbers that our episode when Shohei signed with the Dodgers did last time he broke news, because that one did some good numbers.
Yeah, that would be ideal. So, all right, thank you all for listening. That'll be it for today's episode. There's a game on Friday night, and over the weekend we'll talk about those. Shohei is supposed to play tonight on Friday, so shout out to that. We will be back to talk about it on Monday. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can find 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Sports Today, and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world right there for you on YouTube. You can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider and text us directly at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at SnydDog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us if you have any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you're in your car or if you're at home. Tell your smart advice play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you on Monday.